Alright guys, so the game balance manifesto came out for Ultimatum, and this goes over the basis of what's going to be changing coming the patch that is with Ultimatum 3.14, and what to expect in the next couple of weeks for Path of Exile as a whole. There's a pretty decent amount to dig into here, so I'm just gonna, instead of going word for word like I always do, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna go through the basis of what is changing in each section. I encourage you to read yourself to get the minutia of the changes, but here is the gist of each section. So low life, low mana, and low ES now counts as 50% instead of 30%. So it's a pretty big buff to things that were using low life, like Pain Attunement, but they've adjusted things accordingly for certain things like Assassin Ascendancy, and to not gain hyper benefit by these things. Blood magic support has now been split into 2 gems, one really for aura reservation and one for damage dealing skills, because I felt like it was just kind of being pulled in 2 directions. This is kind of brutal. This one comes out of left field for me. They removed the Elder mod, the 100% more damage mod for poison and bleed, and they replaced it with a localized version of multi, which will just be nowhere near the amount. I can't imagine. It'd have to be like what, fucking 150 like multi to be the same shit. So I mean, this is sad because it's a shame. Poison builds were, I would say, super strong, maybe taking advantage of this. Bleed builds were like hurting nobody. So pretty big hit to bleed builds unless Tree somehow really overcompensates from this. Long story short, that's a big hit to poison and bleed. Very, very painful for bleed. Some Atlas changes, high value, targets, diplomatic escort, other popular Atlas nodes have been nerfed. Everything you've been doing in this past league, heavily, assume it's been nerfed. And things that you haven't been doing so much, such as Seance for ghosts or maybe exotic goods for invasion, those have been buffed. Rituals also been added to Hamtown, so assuming Harvest stays there, it'll be a kind of nice place to farm Ritual and Harvest. Vaal's skills have been buffed in a variety of ways: uptime, soul generation, general damage increase, just pretty much balanced across the board to be better. I guess feel more like an ultimate ability as the goal, something they've trying to do since they've been introduced, but oftentimes they've just been abused for being more of a main skill. I feel like now they're in a pretty good spot, so they're just trying to bring other things in line. Things like Vaal RF and Vaal Arc are obviously heavily used, but try to bring other things that are less used, maybe like Vaal Cold Snap or Vaal Spectral Throw more in line with the other ones. So the following skills have been nerfed in some way, shape, or form, or the extent or severity, but assume to, in some cases, basically unplayable amount. Blade Vortex, Blade Blast, Toxic Rain, General's Cry with channel skills such as Blade Flurry, Seismic Cry, Carrion Golem, Vitality, Frost Bomb, Wave of Conviction, Flesh and Stone, and Divergent Berserk all have received either decent to heavy nerfs. None of them really seem minor, so these all seem like pretty substantial nerfs. Again, it's the viability of playing these post-nerf depends on the specifics from patch note, but if you're planning on doing one of these, maybe plan a backup build. Oh, also the following skills have been buffed. Blood and Sand. That's basically it. Long story short, bows are no longer viable for casters, quivers are no longer viable for casters, explosive, influence, and synthesis items went from 100% chance to a 10% chance. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. But also semi-expected. You can no longer hexproof yourself, so no more self-curse builds. That's just gone now. Poison Sextant Abuse is no longer a thing, so that is also gone. Now, this next one really baffles me. We know about split beast crafting, marking things as split, and making it so you can only basically make one copy of something, and then both items, the copy and the original, are like tagged. What we didn't expect was them to do the same thing to fractured fossils, kind of rendering, I don't want to say deep delving worthless. It'll still have value, but really hitting it hard. Like so at the very best case scenario, fractured fossils is essentially the equivalent to 5 Delirium orbs, because you're going to have your Delirious map. You're going to make a copy of it with a fractured fossil. Both get the tag mod, so you basically just get to double your value. The issue is I'm not going to spend time going deep enough to where I can get fractured fossils like, 1,000, 2,000 depth, just to get a chance at getting a free 5 Delirium orbs here and there, I'd rather just do anything. That just doesn't seem worthwhile at all to me. Next is they've removed the bonus mission chance from awakened objective bonuses, because apparently people were getting too many master missions. That's fine. The issue is I feel like the value of master missions is no longer equal. You know, it's not even remotely close to equal. If we're gonna like even begin to pretend that a Nico mission is worth the same as a Zana mission, or even an Alva mission, no, it's not even remotely close. It's like I think you have to buff the other masters that clearly are not in the same category as others for this to be remotely the same value. So, I mean, yeah, you might get more missions overall, but there's a reason I have 200, there's a reason I have 200 Einhars and Nikos stacked up. It's because I'd rather spend my time doing more effective things. And it's not even as if the zones that these things are in aren't good, it's just that you have Scarabs for Einhar, you have Scarabs for Nico. There's already too much to do, so why give me... I went from having 3 Dead Masters to like the same 3 Dead Masters, but just less of them. I think they have to bring up the other Masters more in line for this to even make a significant difference. They've lowered and standardized the amount of IQ and IR from Delirium, so this Delirium is just not as good, allegedly. They've nerfed AoE, skill effect duration, aura effect, and proj speed values on a variety of cluster jewels and notables across the tree. Immortal Ambitions Keystone has been nerfed, so you get less recharge at higher values. Corrupting Soul Keystone's been nerfed from 20 to 15% gained as ES. Chainbreaker Keystone has been standardized and nerfed overall. I think for some builds it might still be okay that you now have cost plus 3 rage versus lose 5 rage, but I think overall it's still going to be a nerf across the board. Then Elementalist's Bastion is a big one. Is 75 damage bubble versus 100 per notable, so, you know, whatever. An Essence Glutton gives you less ES or mana regen. There's like a lot of nerfs. I mean, so I have this document I made to represent this is like all the changes in summation, right? This is like the TLDR of this entire patch notes. So red is nerfs and green is buffs, right? And it seems like it's almost at face value not too far off, but then you just start to look at things like this where it's like the following skills have been buffed, blood and sand, but then like these 12 skills have been nerfed. It's just not equal, and that's fine. It's okay. Like, I think overall there's nothing. The only things that I would say I disagree with, or I think that were unfair changes in the entirety of this patch notes, is them for some reason nerfing Carrion Golem. And the reason they nerfed Carrion Golem in my mind is that maybe they looked at golems and saw that of the golems being used, Carrion was 90% of them. And they're like, well, clearly this is the favored golem, so let's nerf Carrion Golem. But it's not the favored golem because it's that good and the other golems are also good. It's the favored golem because it's the only viable golem for really a golem build. So if they nerf Carrion Golems again, and it's a big enough nerf, just golems are kind of dead in the water. I mean, as of right now, the state of minions keeps getting hit, and that's okay. But Spectre's got a brutal nerf. Golem's got a pretty brutal nerf in multiple ways. So I just don't understand why nerfing Carrion Golem again. No one's really abusing Carrion Golems, I don't think anymore, but sure. And then the bleed nerf. I mean, this feels like, bleed and poison were sitting in class next to each other, and poison was fooling around and the teacher punished them both, kind of. I feel like bleed is, again, in a similar situation to Carrion Golem, not pushing the envelope, not doing anything crazy. It's like a B+ build at that, and I don't understand why they nerfed it again, unless there's changes to tree that make it so this is basically offset. Same for golems. And aside from that, I feel like everything else is pretty much fine. Most of these things are abuses. Again, fractured fossils I feel like have a really weird place in the game now, and I don't think will be worthwhile. Cool thing to note is because that fractured fossils have just lost value massively, abyss fossils might be better because they're also adding, as we know, a couple new unique abyss jewels. So maybe having abyss sockets on gears higher value might overtake fractured fossils in value. But yeah, everything else just seems like a pretty big nerf, which is fine. And yeah, hopefully patch notes don't sneak in anything crazy. Don't have any Trojan horses. But overall, a lot of nerfs to things that were arguably way too strong. No real buffs, but some general balance changes. Kind of it's just a big old nerf-heavy fiesta. And sometimes we need that in the meta. And, it's hard as people might complain a lot and bitch about, all these dead builds and dead combinations and mechanics, and how in a way it's like hurting diversity, because now, it was Path of Exile is a very modular game, and having the cool thing of like a caster's using bows and we're cursing ourselves to be stronger, like these are all kind of cool things to do, but maybe they didn't nerf them in the proper ways, and maybe having them exist but just a tamped down version would have been more fun for diversity. Hard to say. Really, just like every league, everything will kind of shake out, and then the dust will settle about 2 weeks into league. So for now, we'll wait for patch notes, work with what we got, and try to plan our builds accordingly. So that is the gist of the balance changes in Manifesto. If you have anything that you think I missed, please put it below. And if you have any comments or thoughts on all these changes, what should have been changed and wasn't, what was changed and shouldn't have been, I'd love to hear it below. And as always, I'm Matt Lighty, and have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.